Bill Gates looked up from his dinner and said, "You know, in 1975, I dropped out of Harvard to start Microsoft. My parents thought I'd lost my mind." He paused, adjusting his glasses. "But I had seen the future, a computer on every desk and in every home. What I didn't see coming was that I'd spend the second half of my life giving it all away." The story he told me next revealed why the world's most famous philanthropist believes giving money away is harder than making it. Tonight, I'm having dinner with Bill Gates, the co-founder of Microsoft and one of the most influential people of our time. We're sitting in a quiet corner of a Seattle restaurant, and he's about to share insights that span 5 decades of innovation, business building, and global philanthropy. "Tell me about that Harvard decision," I said, genuinely curious about one of history's most famous dropouts. Gates smiled, that familiar, thoughtful expression crossing his face. 1975 was an incredible time. The Altair 8800 had just been released, the first real personal computer. Paul Allen showed me the popular electronics magazine with the Altair on the cover, and we both knew everything was about to change. What did you see that others didn't? Most people saw a hobbyist toy. We saw the future of computing. But here's what's interesting. I wasn't dropping out to start a company. I was dropping out to write software for this new machine. The company part came later. "What was your parents' reaction?" Gates laughed. "My dad was a prominent lawyer. My mom was on corporate boards. They had a very traditional view of success. Finish Harvard, get a respectable job, climb the corporate ladder. Dropping out to play with computers didn't fit that model." "How did you convince them?" "I didn't try to convince them immediately. I said I was taking a leave of absence, not dropping out permanently. I told them if it didn't work out, I'd go back to Harvard. That made the pill easier to swallow." "But you never went back." "Never needed to. By 1977, Microsoft was already becoming something significant. We had real customers, real revenue, real problems to solve." The waiter brought our appetizers. Gates barely glanced at his food, clearly more interested in the conversation. "What was the early vision for Microsoft?" "A computer on every desk and in every home, running Microsoft software. People thought that was absurd in 1975. Computers cost tens of thousands of dollars and filled entire rooms, but we could see the trajectory. Computers would get smaller, cheaper, more powerful." "How did you know the trajectory was right?" "Moore's Law. Gordon Moore predicted that computer processing power would double every 2 years. If that held true, and we believed it would, then powerful computers would eventually become affordable for everyone." "What was the first big breakthrough?" "The IBM PC contract in 1980. IBM was building a personal computer and needed an operating system. We didn't have one, but we said we did." Gates grinned. "Then we quickly bought an existing operating system called QDOS for $50,000, modified it, and licensed it to IBM as MS-DOS." "That seems risky, promising something you didn't have." "The riskiest thing would have been not taking that bet. IBM was the most important computer company in the world. If we could become their software partner, we'd have instant credibility and massive distribution." "But didn't you also retain the rights to license MS-DOS to other companies?" Gates's eyes lit up. "That was the key decision. IBM wanted to own the operating system outright. We convinced them to let us retain licensing rights. They thought hardware was the valuable part. We knew software would be more valuable." "How did you know that?" "Software scales infinitely. Once you write it, you can copy it millions of times at virtually no cost. Hardware requires manufacturing, materials, logistics. Software is pure intellectual property." "When did you realize Microsoft would become massive?" 1981 to 1982. Other computer manufacturers started licensing MS-DOS for their IBM-compatible machines. Suddenly, we weren't just IBM's software partner. We were the standard operating system for the entire PC industry. The main course arrived. Gates had ordered fish, but seemed more interested in talking than eating. "What about Windows?" That was a big shift from DOS. "Windows was our response to the Macintosh. Apple showed us that graphical user interfaces were the future. Most people don't want to type commands, they want to point and click. But Windows 1.0 wasn't very successful. Windows 1.0 was terrible, Gates admitted. Windows 2.0 was mediocre. Windows 3.0 was when we got it right. Sometimes you have to be willing to fail publicly while you're learning. What made Windows 3.0 different? We finally understood what users wanted. Better graphics, easier multitasking, more intuitive interface. But the real breakthrough was applications. We convinced software developers to write programs for Windows. Without applications, an operating system is useless. How did you convince developers? We made it easy and profitable for them. Good development tools, technical support, marketing cooperation. We realized our success depended on their success. When did you start thinking about the internet? Gates paused, looking slightly uncomfortable. Too late. That was one of my biggest strategic mistakes. I was focused on desktop software while the world was moving to networked computing. What changed your mind? 1995. Netscape went public and their stock price exploded. I realized the internet wasn't just a fad, it was the next platform. I wrote an internal memo called the Internet Tidal Wave and pivoted the entire company. How do you pivot a company that large? You stop everything and refocus. We integrated internet features into Windows 95, launched Internet Explorer, rebuilt our server products for web hosting. It was painful, but necessary. What about the antitrust case? That must have been difficult. Incredibly difficult. The government accused us of monopolistic practices, of stifling competition. From our perspective, we were just trying to build great software and win in the marketplace. How did that experience change you? It taught me that success brings responsibility. When you become that influential, your decisions affect entire industries. You can't just think about your company. You have to think about the broader ecosystem. Is that what led to your philanthropy? Gates's expression became more serious. Partly, but the real catalyst was learning about global health inequality. In the late 1990s, Melinda and I read about diseases that were killing millions of children in developing countries, diseases that were easily preventable or treatable. What shocked you most? Rotavirus. It kills 500,000 children every year from diarrhea. We have vaccines that cost less than $5 per child. The only reason kids are dying is poverty and lack of distribution systems. How do you approach global health problems? Like debugging software, you identify the problem, analyze the root causes, develop solutions, test them, iterate based on results. The difference is that when your code crashes, nobody dies. When a health intervention fails, real people suffer. What's been your biggest success in global health? Probably vaccines. We've helped immunize over 760 million children worldwide. We've driven down the cost of vaccines and improved distribution systems. Childhood mortality has dropped dramatically. What's the hardest part about philanthropy? Measuring impact. In business, you have clear metrics: revenue, profit, market share. In philanthropy, success is often measured in lives saved or diseases prevented. It's harder to quantify, and results take years to materialize. How do you decide what problems to work on? 3 criteria: scale, tractability, and neglectedness. How many people are affected? Can we actually solve the problem? Are others already working on it effectively? We focus on big problems that are solvable but underfunded. What about education? That's a major focus for your foundation. Education is personal for me. I was lucky to attend great schools, but millions of kids don't have that opportunity. We're trying to improve outcomes for low-income students through better teaching, personalized learning, and college readiness programs. What have you learned about education reform? It's incredibly complex. What works in one school might fail in another. Teacher quality matters more than anything else, but improving teacher quality is really hard. There's no silver bullet. Let's talk about climate change. How are you approaching that? Climate change is the ultimate systems problem. We need breakthroughs in energy generation, storage, transportation, agriculture, and manufacturing. My climate investments focus on technologies that can scale globally. What's your biggest climate bet? Advanced nuclear power. We need carbon-free energy that's reliable and scalable. Wind and solar are great, but they're intermittent. Nuclear can provide baseline power without emissions. What about breakthrough energy? That's my climate investment fund. We invest in early-stage companies developing breakthrough technologies, not just renewable energy, but also sustainable fuels, carbon capture, alternative proteins. How do you evaluate these investments? Different criteria than traditional venture capital. We're looking for technologies that could eliminate gigatons of emissions if they scale. Financial returns are secondary to climate impact. What role does innovation play in solving global problems? Innovation is everything. Most of the tools we need to solve global challenges don't exist yet. We need better vaccines, cheaper clean energy, more productive crops, more effective teaching methods. How has your role changed from Microsoft CEO to philanthropist? At Microsoft, I could make decisions and see results quickly. In philanthropy, everything takes longer and involves more stakeholders. You have to work with governments, NGOs, local communities. Consensus building is crucial. What drives you now? Urgency. I'm 68 years old. I want to use my remaining productive years to solve problems that matter. Every day we delay addressing malaria or climate change. People suffer unnecessarily. What's your relationship with Warren Buffett? Gates smiled warmly. Warren is a mentor and close friend. He taught me that giving money away effectively is actually harder than making it. It requires the same analytical rigor and long-term thinking as building a business. How so? When you're building a company, market feedback tells you if you're succeeding. In philanthropy, feedback is delayed and complex. You might not know if an intervention worked for years or decades. What's the Giving Pledge about? Warren and I started the Giving Pledge to encourage wealthy individuals to commit to giving away the majority of their wealth. Over 230 billionaires have signed on so far. Why is that important? Private philanthropy can take risks that governments can't. We can fund experimental approaches, support unpopular causes, move quickly when opportunities arise, but only if wealthy people actually give their money away. What are you most optimistic about? Young people. This generation is more globally minded, more concerned about social impact, more willing to tackle big problems. They're going to solve challenges we can't even imagine. What advice do you give to young entrepreneurs? Pick a big problem you're passionate about. Don't just start a company to get rich. Start a company to make a difference. The money will follow if you're solving real problems. What about young philanthropists? Start early, even with small amounts. Learn by doing. Don't wait until you're wealthy to begin caring about others. The skills and perspectives you develop will make you a better philanthropist later. Looking back, any regrets? I wish I'd started philanthropy earlier. I spent the first 25 years of my career focused entirely on Microsoft. If I'd started giving seriously in my 30s, I could have had twice as much impact. What would you tell your younger self? Success in business is just the beginning. The real test is what you do with that success. Use it to lift others up, to solve problems bigger than yourself. As dinner wound down, Gates reflected on the journey from Harvard dropout to global philanthropist. The irony is that dropping out of Harvard to start Microsoft was considered risky at the time. But the real risk would have been staying safe, following the conventional path, never taking a chance on changing the world. And now the risk is wasting the resources and platform that Microsoft created. I have a responsibility to use these tools effectively, not just for my own satisfaction, but for the millions of people whose lives could be improved. Final thoughts? Whether you're building a company or changing the world, it starts with seeing a future that doesn't exist yet and being willing to work toward it. The future is created by people who refuse to accept the status quo. This evening with Bill Gates reinforced my belief that true success isn't measured by wealth accumulated, but by problems solved and lives improved. His transition from tech mogul to global philanthropist shows that the skills that build companies, analytical thinking, long-term vision, relentless execution, can also heal the world. Don't forget to subscribe and check out the other videos to hear the most private dinner conversations where billionaires reveal their deepest secrets. Which part inspired you the most? Drop it in the comments. Let's figure out how to become billionaires together.